Hello everybody, Jean back with more Mars anomalies and some space news. This is part 2 of blocks, knobs and geometric patterns east of Zea Dorsa on Mars. Just a quick Osiris-Rex Bennu asteroid update. A new image was added to the gallery and I'll include the link below. Bennu North Pole flyover, and from the image it does look as if the asteroid is circular in shape. This is the North Pole looking down at the equator, and it looks to be sort of a circular object. I couldn't find any glaring anomalies or artifacts in the northern hemisphere. I'll take a closer look at that in the near future, but the artifact or two that I would like to see a close-up of in the next image would be this huge artifact over here, which my friend Marsform Barnsey brought to my attention. It's very similar to the artifacts and anomalies we cover on Mars. Got this rectangular shape to it. It's about 30 by 20 meters. And to the left in the center we've got what looks like a knob or smaller feature as well. There's an animation I did of a close-up of this artifact, and also over there it's this round circular anomaly which looks almost like a big dish. This is a close-up of it, and unfortunately the imagery I used wasn't really high res, so this is the best detail I could bring out, so check out that. This huge artifact on the southern side of the asteroid. So when NASA does release any more images of this artifact, I'll include it in an update in the near future. So we're returning to this photograph we're analyzing called Rocky Outcrop southeast of Hellas Planitia, and as always you can find the link in the description below. And we're looking at anomalies in these dark patches on the Martian surface. Just briefly again, located at 51.82 degrees south, 96.76 degrees east, and it's in this area between some hills or mountains in that dark patch over there, which I speculate may have been water that dammed up there and dried out some time ago. So the first anomaly in part 2 is this square structure right there, which measures about 10 by 10 meters. You can see straight edges, lots of geometry in that shape, almost 90-degree angles at the corners, and on top of the smooth flat surface we've got these other anomalies, little artifacts sort of randomly arranged over here, and then over there again in a circular pattern with those 5 equally sized and spaced artifacts there. We've got 2 smaller ones to the side next to one another running parallel to that side, and then this looks like a little hollowed out concave area as well. And then this object just to the right of this larger one seems to be tucked in underneath this one. Also very smooth surface, straight edges, and seems to curve down at almost 90-degree angles on the left. Also a rounded edge. And then there in the center of this one side we've got a dark spot, very similar to others that we've looked at. Yeah, we're looking at another huge rectangular object which is about 15 by 10 meters. It looks like a almost like a metallic plate, or maybe a megalithic slab with very straight edges and some symmetry and geometry in the angles of this larger piece. And then sort of in the center to the one side, got this larger artifact with smaller dark spots or holes arranged almost in a circular pattern around it. We're looking at another strange object over there, also almost square. Let's check out that megalithic block, which measures about 6 meters across and about 12 meters long. You can see one of the sides over here. Then a relatively smooth flat surface, and then mounted to the one side, almost in the center, we've got another rectangular block. Looks almost like another one of these hexagonal pieces with 1, 2, 3 sides visible over here. Then this, what looks like either another metal plate or megalithic slab, measuring about 10 by 10 meters, straight edges running through there, 90-degree angle, and then on the top of the surface we've got two anomalies close to one another in the center as well. It seems as if it's joined to another piece that's sort of underneath this. I don't know what I could call it, like the top of a roof perhaps, who knows. Maybe this is another makeshift shelter. Yeah, we're looking at another sort of disc-like object, which is about 6 meters in diameter, with a little knob or feature in the center, casting that shadow. You can see the rounded shape this part sticking out. The rest seems to be covered in dust and sand. Also that area there, the sand seems to be pushed up to the one side. So could this be a crashed disc? More geometric patterns over here in this piece, which measures about 6 by 8 meters. And on the surface we've got 4 dark spots, equally spaced and almost equal size. Check at that, arranged in a square. This could be wreckage we're looking at over here. And let's see, for reference, that piece in the center there is about 10 to 11 meters across, and to the one side we've got what looks like a bent metal plate, and tucked in underneath this object over here, which has a smaller dome-like feature in the center as well. It seems this may be slightly caved in, sort of hollowed out, with the ridge line running in a circular pattern around it. Okay, here we're looking at what may be more wreckage perhaps in this area down here. And for reference, this anomaly is about 10 by 10 meters. This piece over here, about 10 by 10. On it we've got a couple of these sort of triangular artifacts in a row. Check at that, in parallel to that one side. And then another sort of multi-sided, almost hexagonal piece to the right, with a circular hole drilled into the surface as well. And then to the left, this is what might be another metal plate or metal sheet. That there looks like it could be a hole, as well as these down here. Or maybe that's another megalithic block. And then this piece to the side, a semicircular object with a straight edge running through there. And then another rectangular slot cut into the one side. Now we're looking at this strange anomaly. That block is about 12 by 12 meters. Another square object with a hole right there, or it could be a shadow cast from a very flattened dome-like feature there in the center. Then running along the left, a little bit raised off the surface of this object, got another part, and then strange darker material going over from this side onto this side. It's almost like a type of a root system. Who knows what that could be? Maybe organic in nature. Highly speculative, I know. And then on either side we've got these two smaller domes or spheres. Maybe that's a pipe. Okay, so we're looking at another sort of megalithic slab located in this area, and a really narrow piece sticking out of the surface over here with a very straight, well-defined edge. This surface is relatively smooth with various artifacts arranged on top. Check at these, all very close to one another, all look very, very similar, with two smaller anomalies on each. We're looking at those. These measure about 8 by 8 meters. Firstly, this object here, which seems to have a narrow rectangular piece in the center, casting that shadow. Another little block over here with two knobs next to one another. Here we've got another almost square object with this really odd piece next to it, coming over the square. Check at that. Rather strange edge to it. Definitely coming over the one side. We've got what looked like two blocks over here. Definitely some layering or step in that there. Okay, yeah, we're looking at more blocks, those two over here. This one's about 8 by 8, this one's about 10 by 10. This one over here, a strange symbol or feature on the top. Straight edges as well. And two dark spots, sort of almost parallel to that side there. Can't make out what might be casting those shadows. It's just not enough contrast in that. Here we've got another object measuring about 6 by 6 meters with four almost equally sized and spaced features on top, arranged in that square pattern, and then two straight edges here, almost 90 degrees there, and some right angles on the right of this piece. These are some of the larger anomalies. Check how these have been arranged over here. Also in a circular fashion. Each of them has got a little knob or feature on it. Now we're going to look at the larger piece. Check at this one over here. Another 3 smaller knobs or features in a row there. So this piece is about 15 by 6 meters. Smooth surface. And then 2 smaller artifacts on top. This one over here. Also have 2 artifacts in the center as well. This one over here. Also a little artifact in the center, casting that shadow. You're looking at another chevron shaped object there, which is about 15 meters long by about 10 meters wide, and in the one side we have what looks like a megalithic block sort of tucked in underneath this. Relatively smooth surface on each, and very straight edges on the piece to the left. Some symmetry in this shape. The side's been covered in sand and dust. Okay, here we're looking at these objects over here to the right. Another almost rectangular block with some anomalies arranged in a straight line through the center. 2 odd-shaped pieces here. That looks like a hole drilled into this one side, almost in the center. There's another dark spot in this one. And then this object over here seems to have 2 triangular parts to it. There's the first one, the second one over here sticking off to the side. Little rectangular part there. What looks like a little donut shape over here. Here we're looking at this area of the photograph, and a little square object like a cube to the top right with 2 holes symmetrically placed on the surface. Another one of these triangular pieces slightly bent over there. We've got another odd shaped piece over here with smaller artifacts on the surface. This piece over here looks like another circular object with a V-shaped smaller part in the center, and then on top of this one also have some arrangement of smaller parts. This one over here in the center, slightly raised with a smaller little hole in the center, and then this one over here, a little anomaly there that's casting that shadow in the center of that piece, and a little triangular object there. This is darker material, so it could have been placed here afterwards, who knows. Just a lot of interesting anomalies very close to one another. Here we're looking at this area, another hexagonal shaped object, see 6 of these sides, and then on top 3 artifacts casting those shadows, and then the area of the photograph to the top center. This block is about 12 by 10 meters, smooth, flat, bright surface, almost 90-degree angle there, and then this looks almost like another type of structure, maybe metallic in nature. We've got a straight edge running through there, and over here, 90-degree angle there, and then this rectangular part slightly raised up of the surface, casting that shadow, and then that looks like a little flattened dome or sphere there, casting that shadow. Pardon me. And then we're looking at this anomaly, about 12 by 12 meters. Also 3 parts to it, the larger piece on the surface, slightly raised, this narrower piece here, and then on top of that got what looks like flattened sort of semicircular feature or knob as well. There's some layering and stepping in this object there as well. Now we're looking at these objects. With this strange piece, looks like there might be a metal plate lying on top of the larger object, coming over the edge. The dark spot right there, could that be a hole? Okay, here we're looking at this anomaly, and got straight edges over there to that side, almost 90-degree angles, and in the center what looks like a circular hole as well. And then this piece to the left seems to be made up of 2 parts, this wider piece there, the narrower piece sticking out to the bottom, little donut part right there where these 2 seem to join. So in my next video I want to do something a little different. I want to do something a little diverse. I want to look at the Commodore VIC-20, or specifically BASIC, a little retro nostalgia for those that grew up in the 80s, playing on either ZX80, ZX Spectrum, the VIC-20 or Commodore 64. I came across PC BASIC, which is this basic emulator, and it basically emulates all these basic games that we grew up with in the 80s. And I was inspired and wrote a little basic game I called Missile Command. This was a game available on the VIC-20. It was still published in a magazine, and you had to type it in via the keyboard, so it wasn't available on tape or cartridge. And this was one of my favorite games when I was a teenager, so I've written a similar game in PC BASIC, and I'll cover that in the next video just before part 3 of this current series. So I hope you don't mind. I just felt like there might be some of us out there that will find it interesting that we can still run BASIC on this emulator. So thanks again for watching, and I'll be back soon with that video and then part 3 thereafter. Do take care, and I'll be back soon. Bye bye for now.